Hello and welcome to the Arizona Wildcats post-game show. I'm Michael Lev with the Arizona Daily Star. I'm here with Justin Spears. Our colleague Zach Rosenblatt is a little bit under the weather, so he is behind the camera today. Get well soon, Zach.
Flu game
For Zach. This game here at Arizona Stadium earlier tonight, Justin, very much reminded me of the last time Arizona had a senior night. That was the Territorial Cup last year. Wildcats set the school rushing record that night of 511 yards. They broke it tonight against Oregon State, going for 534 in a 49-28 easy victory. For the second time since that game, that three guys go over 100 yards. Khalil Tate had 206. J.J. Taylor had buck 29, and Nick Wilson had 101. Your biggest takeaway from this game is what?
Well, first things first, that game against ASU last year, they didn't throw a single pass in the second half. In the second half, this game, they threw just one.
Right.
Shout out to Bryce Wilmot, the tight end, for making that catch. But no, I mean, you automatically knew from the get-go that Arizona, this was their game plan, that they were going to utilize Khalil Tate, J.J. Taylor, Nick Wilson as much as possible, because Oregon State's rush defense isn't really the greatest. So, no, I mean, Khalil Tate, he got active early on, got a rushing touchdown from the get-go, and once, Khalil Tate started getting active and J.J. Taylor started getting active, even when Oregon State came out in the second half and cut the deficit down a little bit, you got a sense that the Wildcats still had a good grasp of this game, just because no matter what was going on, Oregon State couldn't stop the rush defense, or stop the rush. So.
Right. I liked what Jacob Alsadek said after the game. Jacob, of course, the senior right guard, started, I think, his 43rd or 44th career game tonight. He basically said, like, the other team knows what we're going to do, or we're just going to do it anyway, and they can't stop us. And that's kind of the beauty of this Arizona offense right now, is they're not really, there are no big secrets, right? They're not trying to deceive anybody. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to line up. We're going to run the ball down your throat and try to stop us. And most opponents this year have not been able to do that, especially since Khalil Tate took over at quarterback. He threw only 7 passes tonight, but he completed 5 of them. The first pass of the game was an incomplete pass. Then he had the interception. He hit on every other one. That's tremendous efficiency, right? In that Territorial Cup, Brandon Dawkins was 3 for 8. It's kind of felt a little different to me in that regard. Like, when they need to pass, they can. On the first drive of the game, he converted a couple of 3rd and 8s. The second one was a really nice pass down the middle to Tyrell Johnson. But speaking of Brandon Dawkins, he was able to get into the game, as we thought might happen. Was able to lead a touchdown drive, and his 4-yard touchdown run actually tied the record, and he was instrumental in setting that record last year. What's the value, do you think, of getting him in the game, knowing that, they might need him at some point this year?
Yeah, well, I really thought that he wasn't going to get in the game because, say there's a chance that he goes in and somehow gets hurt. And now you're looking at, okay, Arizona goes up to Oregon. What if Khalil Tate ends up getting hurt and you have Brandon Dawkins on the injury report? So then you're sitting there thinking, oh man, we might actually have Donovan Tate or Rhett Rodriguez at the backup quarterback. But one thing I liked what Khalil Tate said was, usually when he's going to the sideline, Dawkins is the first one that sees him, and that's where you kind of appreciate Dawkins as a guy who pretty much got his job taken away from him. He could easily be on the sideline and sit there and pout, but instead he's really coaching Khalil because he knows this is a crucial time in his career because he's such a young quarterback. Brandon Dawkins has more game experience, even though Khalil Tate has shown that he's better. But no, Brandon Dawkins getting in the game and tying the rushing record, it was great for him. This is probably going to be the last time we see him at Arizona Stadium, maybe, but it was great to see him get in the game.
Yeah, I think Rich Rod probably felt like he owed it to Brandon.
Yeah. For
all the work that he's put in to put him in the game here. Maybe his final home game if he decides to go the grad transfer route after the season. The defense struggled in the second half of this game. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was 28-0 at halftime. Pretty much felt like the game was over. Their intensity level dropped, obviously, but a good lesson for a young group that they need to sustain that for a full game. But let's look ahead here before we close up shop, and so poor Zach can go home and get under the covers and get into bed here. Oregon, Arizona State, both games on the road. Chance to finish with a 9-3 record. I feel like with Khalil Tate, anything is possible. We've sort of used that phrase earlier in the season. I don't feel like any game that they play is one that they can't win.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, and you also have to look back last week against USC. I'm going to be honest with you, Michael. I really thought once USC went up by a couple scores, I really thought that was it. There's no way a top team like USC at home would give up such a big lead against such a young, inexperienced Arizona team. But guess who put on his Superman hero cape? It was Khalil Tate, and he led them back with his arm as well as his legs. So with Khalil Tate, the options are endless. But going against Oregon next week, it's going to be cold. Even though it's a day game, kind of. Is a 4
Late
p.m.
afternoon,
kickoff?
I'll take it. 4 p.m. on the 4 p.m. Pacific Coast, 5 p.m. in Tucson.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
But it's still going to be really cold up there.
Rainy.
We don't know the weather conditions, so it could very well be raining. But for Arizona's favor, they're just like Jacob Alsadek said, they're going to run the ball. They're predictable, but yet they're still going to beat you every single time. If it's a raining game, you might see another rushing record for Arizona. So
right. I think Justin Herbert's probably going to be back for that game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really, really big test for that defense to see if they can come up with enough stops. The offense is going to do its thing, right? They're going to score points. The defense just needs to come up with a couple red zone stops, a couple turnovers. And I think if that happens, they can beat the Ducks. All right. Anyway, that's our show for tonight. You can check out our work at Tucson.com, also on the free Wildcaster app. For Justin, I'm Michael. We'll see you next time.